Welcome one and all to another edition of the Defo Show with Lubie here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, brought to you by Water Cleanup of Florida. Talked about them a lot over the last few months, and it has hit home. And it's funny, someone mentioned, this guy seems to have a lot of water issues. No, I had the one water problem, and Water Cleanup of Florida took care of it. But it is something that my wife and I talk about all the time because we've dealt with air conditioning people. We had roofers that were prescribed from the complex. We had all these things we've dealt with when it comes to service industry people, with my car, different forms of insurance. When we deal with all these people, they've done an okay job, but getting in touch with them, getting a hold of them is not easy. And something that Water Cleanup of Florida talks about, and something that they really believe in, is being able to communicate with you and make sure you as a client, as a customer, are satisfied with not only their services, with their communication. When they say you can reach them 24/7, they mean it. When they say they have over 60 years of combined experience between Michael, Robert, and their team, they mean it. When they talk about having licensed contractors who can come in, not only help assess the situation, but actually get the contract work done to a high level, they mean it. I've experienced it. You will experience it all. Just give them a call, 954-579-0356. 954-579-0356. And let Water Cleanup of Florida help you with any water, fire, mold issues. Also, check out their website, WCUFL.com, WCUFL.com. If you mention 5 Reasons or Lubie during business hours, you will get a free inspection. And you can check them out on their socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Water Cleanup FL. Water Cleanup of Florida. We clean up your schmutz. And it's been interesting. It hasn't been schmutzy. The Miami Heat, this offseason wasn't as active as we would like, but the Miami Heat definitely did sort of what I thought they would do and needed to do. They brought back Oladipo. They've kept their young guys. They're already starting to work to get in shape. And they've been involved in talks for the whale, quote-unquote, in a Donovan Mitchell or Kevin Durant. Well, Kevin Durant comes back around. The dude asked for a trade, and the Nets, I guess, thought he was playing. I don't know. Usually when a guy of that caliber asks for a trade, they mean it. Well, he's sticking to his guns. He's giving ultimatum to the Nets. And it seems like he's back on the trade market, and it feels like the Heat are in the middle of that. We talked about that, Defo and I, today. Also, the Miami Dolphins have their first preseason game. We talked about the importance of the preseason. We talked about Mike McDaniel's first season as Miami Dolphins head coach. Talked about all that today with Brett Tessler, NFL agent. He is the agent to Raheem Mosters, so he's dealt with Mike McDaniel a lot. He's dealt with the Dolphins. We talked about both the Miami Heat and the Miami Dolphins today on the Defo Show with Lubie here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
How about this Durant story? Isn't that great?
I love it. I think it's the greatest. I just love that the Nets really were like, we'll just wait it out. He'll want to stay. It's like when a guy comes out with a trade request, you're just leaving yourself to look bad. Like, that's the problem with all this, is people think it makes Durant look bad. It makes them look bad to me. He asked for a trade, and
It's a disgrace for my favorite borough of New York, Brooklyn, where I grew up.
I just think it's
a disgrace.
Trade the guy. Like, he wants to out-trade him.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like,
all those years of playing marbles there in the dirt, flipping baseball cards, playing punch ball, stick ball, dodging cars, riding our bikes down the block there in Myrtle Avenue, pulling the chain on what sounded like a complete facsimile, a total facsimile of a police and or fire siren. And the cars were part ways, and then there was a group of 8-year-olds on Schwinn's. I loved it, man. I mean, there was a character building, upbringing that I don't know that a lot of people missed it. I guess, you can only live your own life. But I do think that it was an asset to me to grow up on the streets of Brooklyn there, where, and this is an unfortunate thing. And I think it's part of what's wrong with, not just this country, but the world in general, is that we as kids had to manufacture our own fun. And we went outside and did it by interacting with other people.
Yep.
And so you learned about, getting along with people, maybe even people that you didn't particularly care for. You learned about getting along with them. Now, collecting money from them after, like a loss. I mean, think about that. You're in money games at 8 years old.
I can't think about that. It didn't dawn on us.
Yeah, I mean, if there wasn't a bet on a game, it wasn't really a game.
At 8?
And 8 years old, yeah.
I never did that ever. We were in college playing ball, and I didn't put money on it.
I'd be more reluctant to do it today than I was then, because I was life and death to end up in a 5-all draw with Dr. Jerry last night. We never got to the second set because it took so long to play the first one. Unbelievable. right? I mean, think about that. We only played 10 games of tennis. It took us an hour and a half. And it wasn't like this was world-class stuff.
Oh, my God.
You know how you're kind of hoping maybe you play well for a little while if you go out there and you play any tennis or any ball for that matter. And you may be hoping that people on the next court say, whoa, those guys can play.
Yep.
None of that was happening last night. There were some 6-year-olds taking lessons, and they were hitting the ball better than Dr. Jerry and me. That's the way it goes. But anyway, I mean, Brooklyn disgraced by this. I mean, and what kind of demand is that? You fire the GM and Steve Nash.
Yeah, I mean,
is he not above reproach? Now everybody says that Nash is horrible.
He's horrendous. That's what's weird to me is them defending Nash. It's like you knew it was a stupid hire. Like that was never a good hire.
Well, wasn't that his idea?
Yes.
I mean, wasn't that part of the equation?
It was Durant Irving. Remember Durant Irving? Like, it doesn't matter who coaches.
Yeah.
We're going to coach ourselves. It's like, you're going to coach yourself there, Kyrie. Sure.
So now, they're blaming the coach, or like, if he's here, I'm out of here. This town is not big enough. New York City.
Yeah, please
think about that, Lubie. Is not big enough for the two of us. That's what Durant was saying.
Okay.
About Sean Marks, the general manager of the Brooklyn Nets, who put together exactly what he wanted. Did he not?
Yep.
You wanted James Harden? I got you James Harden. You wanted Kyrie? Here's Kyrie. Kevin? Hey, you want to sit out of here? Here's $50 million. Now you can't say that Durant didn't deliver. I mean, he gave it everything he had, and you would have to take that into consideration if you were going to all of a sudden say, hey, what an asshole for making a demand like that. But, what player, think about that. Can you imagine like Whitey Ford coming into the owner of the team, his office and saying, hey, I want you to fire the GM and, you know what, Yogi's got to go.
Are you kidding me?
It's crazy. Anyway, so that doesn't look like it's a favorable situation, Olivia. What does that mean? Is Pat
I think
Riley
it looks good for the Heat.
Something up?
Yeah, I think it's great for the Heat. I think it's the Heat are right in the middle of it. That's why the Heat they didn't extend Hero, because if you extend Hero, you can't trade him, just like what the Suns do with Booker. And same thing with Ayton. It looks good for the Heat because they've kept Robinson, they've kept Lowry, who's now getting in shape. They re-signed Oladipo, so they have pieces to go and get a Durant. I mean, it looks good. I don't know if I want a Durant for what you might have to give up for him at this age of his career. That's annoying. At this age of his career, but
I just sent you a message. You were cracking a little bit. I know I didn't mean to distract you.
No, I'm not distracted at all. Just let me know.
Brilliant dissertation.
Just let me know if I still am. I mean, I'm trying. I don't know what else to do. But like
you got to get out of the kitchen. I mean, you had it solved yesterday.
This is the place. I'm in the same place I was yesterday. The internet's just not great in my house. But it looks good for the Heat. We'll see what happens. The Rileys wanted Durant. We'll see if it happens.
I don't know, man. You know what? It's getting a little old with Durant. As much fun. The Heat would be one of the few places maybe that he would fit in right now, right? Because he seems a little sour, doesn't he, Kevin Durant? I mean, a little bit dour, a little bit sour. Great ball player, no question. Brilliant career. I wasn't one that jumped on him for saying, hey, he took the easy way out by going to the Warriors. Well, what the hell, right? I mean, when you showed up at the park, did you not want to be on the team that was going to hold the court all night? Of course you did, because it was more fun.
Yep.
Right? You didn't have to worry. The pressure wasn't really on you to carry the load so much. I mean, you had other guys that could always come through. That's the beauty of team sports, as opposed to, like we said, when you're out there by yourself and you're the upstart trying to beat Serena Williams, guess what? There's nobody to pass the ball to make that last shot. You're going to have to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And so, I don't, I never begrudged Kevin Durant for going to the Golden State Warriors. In fact, I wish he had stayed there because I like super teams. I just really do. When you were watching them play, it was a pleasure. It was like, going back to the early days when Naismith put the first peach basket up there and said, why don't we call it basketball? Like, okay. That game has disappeared. It really has.
Yeah.
All right. This is no surprise. One more thing here before we cut to, and I just said I was going to revamp this thing a little bit and go a little bit more quickly through the first segment for you people out there that are looking for production and value, changes here in the show.
Okay.
Well, we want to try and make more money. That's really the key to all of that. But no one is living a dream more than Brett Tessler, and well-deserved from humble beginnings in the sports agent business. Here's Brett Tessler, the agent of the stars. So, are there things that we need to know about this first game that other than just watch it and pay little attention? I mean, what can you derive from these first preseason games, if anything? I mean, what are some of the things that teams are really looking for in this first action, or is it just not to get anybody hurt and see if their special teams can block a punt?
Well, you know that teams aren't really going to be opening up their playbook, especially someone like Mike McDaniel, who this is his first year coaching, and obviously, or his first year as a head coach, I should say, and obviously he's a brilliant guy, and I guarantee he's going to come here with some very interesting and fresh ideas offensively, which you are not going to be seeing in the preseason. But it does give you a chance to see how certain guys do in one-on-one matchups, certain skill position guys. And, normally a fourth year or third year, whatever two is at this point, starting quarterback, you wouldn't get too excited or really put a whole lot of thought into what they do. But, this is a little bit different. Whatever playing time he does get this preseason, I think people are going to be watching his every move extra close. And so I think for him to get off to a decent start, even in the preseason, I think is of value for him and for the team.
Brett, how do your players, I know you have players ranging from established starters to undrafted free agents who are trying to just get in there. How seriously do they take preseason? Because we sort of laugh at it, talk about how it doesn't matter. Defo literally asked, should we just get rid of it altogether yesterday? But again, you represent players where this may be make it or break it for them. So what does the preseason mean to your players? Like, what does it mean to the actual player?
Well, for the established veteran starters or superstar players, it means just, something you try to get through without tweaking a hammy or, God forbid, worse. I do believe that it's a benefit to get some action, even for the top players, just to get the timing down with the center, just the center QB exchange, maybe get the timing down with a couple of your new skill position guys. But other than that, not a whole lot. And then for the young guys, it's everything. I mean, when I talk to some of my undrafted guys or late round picks, going into these preseason games, essentially, they need to approach it like their own personal Super Bowl.
Oh, wow.
Because their career can depend on it. And even if it's not to make the team they're with, if for whatever reason that's not possible, every other team out there is watching all this film. So if you're a young player who has to prove yourself, I mean, this is where you do it. And if you don't take advantage of these opportunities, it could very well mean the end of your career.
Brett Tessler, the agent of the stars, with us here on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie, Lubitz. Brett's appearance every week. Brought to you by a will and trust attorney, Mr. Michael D. Wild. All right, so yesterday in practice, the Jets look like it's possible they lose this Melky Becton again. Maybe, for a prolonged period of time or maybe even out for the year. He was going to be their starting right tackle. They had moved him over to the other side. Now, all of a sudden, they find themselves in a quandary because, they need to either plug somebody in there or find somebody and maybe fill a roster spot there with an offensive lineman. How does that process work? I mean, who's out there on the fringe ready to get a shot? I think they signed a guy, an offensive lineman, yesterday for a 1-year deal, which looked like that was a move that was made. And maybe it was not in conjunction with the Becton injury, but what's that process like? I mean, how quickly does word get out that, hey, you see what happened there with the Kansas City Chiefs? And how quickly do you have to get to your clients to have them in a position to maybe take advantage of a situation like that?
Yeah, losing Becton definitely increases their need for help on the line, but they kind of needed it even before. And it's funny you should mention this because I got a couple calls from them last week about some players that I represent. A veteran player like Mike Remmers, who's coming off a knee injury from last season, who still has, a few handful of weeks until he'll be ready to go. But, that's the kind of guy that teams will and should be very interested in because, he's battle tested, great leadership, played in big games, versatile, can play, pretty much any position on the line aside from center. So, those are the kind of guys that teams are keeping on speed dial at this time because you never know what can happen. And even prior to the Becton injury, teams are still looking for depth and versatility and leadership at the line position especially.
Is it a given, in your opinion, that the Buffalo Bills will win the AFC Eastern Division, Brett Tessler? Because we're somehow trying to work the Dolphins into that spot. I don't know if it's going to work out that way. I was telling Lubie in the audience that the speculation seems to be that the Patriots won't win as many games as they did last year, even if Mac Jones, shows improvement at quarterback, which he wasn't bad last year, and that the Jets are the Jets. I mean, just determined to be mired in the muck there, and don't really have the goods to make a big rise. But what do you see? I mean, are the Buffalo Bills that much superior to everybody else in the AFC East, in your opinion, that we should discount the possibility of maybe the Dolphins or another team winning that division?
No, going off the results of the last couple of years, obviously you have to make the Bills the favorite. But, this is a little bit different now because with the Patriots, you've got Mac Jones coming into his second year. I was really impressed with that guy last year. I thought he did an incredible job, showed tremendous poise with limited weapons to work with. And, don't ever discount Belichick. Don't ever discount the Patriots. And, I'm happy to say for the fans of South Florida, don't overlook the Dolphins just because there's no telling what this season's going to be. It could be shockingly great. It could be disappointingly bad. You just don't know because there's a whole lot of new ingredients here, both in the roster, the coaching staff, and obviously, the Mike McDaniel factor. That's the one that, I'm as interested as anybody in seeing how it's going to work. In my dealings with the guy, and I got to know him pretty well going through the free agency process when we signed Raheem Mosters down here. Just a very unique guy, very different. And so, this is one of those real wild card situations where, again, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if this wasn't hugely successful. And, I can't say I'd be surprised if it didn't work just because it's just a whole new era here now with, again, the new coach and, some of the new weapons and Tua at a crossroads. So going to be very, very interested to see how this season plays out for them.
Brett, I know Raheem, I feel like you've dealt with McDaniel directly, but even if you haven't, he was Mostert's main coach in San Francisco. So I know you've talked with people who know him. Look, a lot of the time when a guy is fun and loose as a coach, it gets campy and it gets a little, cheesy. Whatever we've gotten from him, what we've heard from people like you and everyone else, it doesn't feel like that's him. Like, it feels like he is who he is, and it's just sort of, he's this new era guy, sort of like a McVay, maybe not as tough looking, but it feels like he's real. Am I wrong? Like, it feels like this McDaniel where he's taking pictures with the media and he talks about the Yeezys, but then he'll also break down an offense like he's Vince Lombardi. Like, it feels like this is just who this guy is, and to me, it seems exactly what the Dolphins have been looking for.
It's such a good point you mentioned, Lubie, that in the past when coaches attempt to be players' coaches, yes, or they're a little bit different or maybe a little quirky or they look a little different or sound a little different, in many cases it winds up being a disaster. But the one thing that I can give to Mike McDaniel, more so than maybe any other coach that I've dealt with, it's sincerity. He's real. He's not trying to be something he's not. And again, like I said, I just don't think there's going to be any third position, any middle ground here. I think it's going to be, very successful or not successful at all. I don't think you're going to see mediocrity. I think, between what he brings from a, playbook acumen to who he is as a person, again, just the realness that he comes across with, the sincerity, the vulnerability. There's just something about that guy that's just incredibly endearing where, as an agent, I don't really take any personal liking to any coaches. I do what's best for my clients. But, when you talk to this guy, you really sense how real he is and how sincere he is. And in this business, that's something that's sometimes hard to come by. So for that reason, I know I'm pulling for the guy. I wish him the best. And I hope that the guys in the locker room are pulling for him and willing to fight for him, because if they do, this could be a whole new breed of head coach for the next generation. Because again, the dinosaurs, the Mike Zimmers, those kind of guys, it's a dying breed. Today's coach can't be a taskmaster. No more Bill Parcells. It just doesn't work. And so I think that if this works here, look forward to seeing a lot more teams going with guys like this. And again, you've seen the younger coaches get hired. You mentioned McVay. Obviously, Arizona's got a young head coach. There's some other teams that have gone that route as well. The Rams have a young coach. So the Bengals also have a young head coach. So there's other teams that are having success. Packers, exactly, with LaFleur. So it's one thing to be young. It's another thing, again, to just sort of be a little more free-spirited like McDaniel. And I think it's refreshing. I really hope the players respect and appreciate what they have in this guy, because if they do, this could be a long-term match made in heaven.
I love it, man. You're getting a Larry Merchant there, talking about the crossroads. Fantastic. Did you make Yeehaw Junction yet? That's always a key point for me on the journey through Florida, which is kind of boring, and I love to stop there. There's like one Chinese restaurant, I believe, in Yeehaw Junction.
Kind of like 3 hours away from
People say is outstanding. All right. Well, one final thing, Brett Tessler, and Brett's appearance brought to you by Will and Trust attorney, Mr. Michael D. Wild. But what do we have to do? Lubie and I want to start the campaign, man, because I think this guy is getting cheesed watching the Hall of Fame ceremonies. How is our man Zach Thomas not in there? What do we have to do to draw attention to his plight? I mean, what do we have to do? Start running naked through the streets? How do we get Zach into the Hall of Fame? And I would imagine you share that opinion that if there was a deserving guy, let's make it happen in the next year, because we don't want it to go to the wire with Zach Thomas.
The story with Zach is people just take him for granted. He's just a tackle machine, and tackles aren't necessarily the sexiest statistic, like sacks or interceptions or other things where guys can really distinguish themselves. Now that Sam Mills has gotten in, you have to wonder, when Zach's turn is, because a very similar kind of player. The unfortunate thing is Zach never had an opportunity in Miami throughout the years that he was down there to really make much of a mark in the postseason. Obviously, never came close to sniffing a Super Bowl. And that's unfortunate because, for many of those years, he was one of the, maybe couple bright spots on the team along with Jason Taylor. And one thing I can tell you about Zach Thomas, he's probably the most instinctive player in the history of the NFL. I mean, it's really like that. And I've represented numerous guys who were teammates of his, even like from when I think he was in the Hula Bowl, I represented a guy who was in that game, and he said that he's just like a cat, like just picking off anything that came anywhere nearby, just, instinctively knowing where every play was going before it went. The guy was a major studier, incredibly smart. And even though as part of his shtick, like when he was here with Larry Izzo, kind of played like, the goofy, hillbilly, whatever. This guy was brilliant. In fact, as a football player, as a middle linebacker, a flat out genius. And so this guy used every ounce of the ability that he was given and then some to, become a player that here we are talking about possible Hall of Fame, whereas this was a guy that a lot of people didn't think should ever even get drafted and certainly would never even make it with his lack of size, mediocre at best speed. It just goes to show, that if you're able to see things quick enough and react fast enough, and if you've got those kind of instincts, and if you've got that kind of intelligence, it can really increase your playing speed, because I know a lot of linebackers who run 4.3s that are nowhere near any play where, guys like this right in the middle of every play. So I definitely think he's worthy of being in the Hall of Fame. And on top of that, always been a great guy, just one of the absolute nicest people. I've never seen this guy turn a fan down anywhere. And so for all those reasons, I really hope that his day comes.
I'm ready to go to Ken, man. That could have been the acceptance speech. That was brilliant characterization of Zach Thomas. And you're right about the smarts. I mean, unbelievable. And he tried to pass himself off as a country bumpkin back in the days there. And, it just was a brilliant player.
I appreciate everyone who tuned in today to the Defo Show. It'll be here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Be sure to check us out each and every morning on South Florida Live. Just YouTube, Google, Facebook, South Florida Live, or at SoFla Live, SoFla Live. Check us out doing our morning thing. You can also check us out on our national content podcast. Yesterday, talked with Cassidy Freeman and Clark Freeman. Yes, Cassidy Freeman. You know her from The Righteous Gemstones, from Longmire, from Smallville. Well, she, along with her brother Clark Freeman, are in a horror film, Yellow Brick Road, that now has been released on Blu-ray DVD. So check that out, Yellow Brick Road. It was a really interesting conversation with Cassidy Freeman and Clark Freeman's siblings who have made it in Hollywood and still like each other and like working together. That's rare. So that was a really fun conversation. The Believe Network, BLEAV.com, Believe.com. Search After Hours for that conversation. And check us out most days right here with our South Florida content, The Defo Show with Lubie, right here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.